In this video, we are going to create a beautiful teleprompter app with React application. The teleprompter feature is widely used in various industries, from broadcasting and public speaking to video production and corporate presentations. It's important to know how you implement this type of project. By building a teleprompter app using React, you can gain experience in managing state, handling scrolling, and how you pause and reset the teleprompter. Project can also involve implementing features such as text speed adjustment and changing font size to improve reading ability. So let's get started and see how to create this. I'm going to open my Git bash. If you want, you can create React application using create React app, or you can use Vite. Now because Vite is lightweight and quick, let me create a project with Vite. I'm going to say npm create, and then we say Vite add latest. We are going to use the latest version of Vite. Press enter. This is going to create a project of Vite. So we need to first specify the name to the project. So I'm going to specify name here. I'm going to say Teleprompter App. Let me select the framework. Now, as I said, I'm using React. So I'm going to select React here. And I'm not using TypeScript. So I'm just using a simple JavaScript. So I'm choosing the JavaScript here. If you're comfortable with TypeScript, you can choose a TypeScript as well. And this will create a simple React project. Now you have to enter into the Teleprompter app. So cd into Teleprompter app, just like this. And you have to say npm install. This will install all the dependencies inside your project. Now, once you've done that, you have to enter this command npm run dev to start the development server. So I'm going to first clear the screen and I'm going to say npm run dev. Now this is going to start your localhost on 5173 port. I'm going to press Ctrl and click on this link. This is going to open the Vite application. Now, just for that, we need to set up the Tailwind CSS to add styling to this project. So I'm going to search for Tailwind CSS and open the Tailwind CSS website. Click on Get Started, and here I'm going to choose the framework guide. And we are using Vite, so I'm going to choose your Vite, and here is the process. You have to create your Vite project, then cd into your project and execute this command npm install Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. So I'm going to first stop the development server, clear the screen, and enter this command just like this. Install all these three libraries. And just after that, you have to initialize the Tailwind. So execute this command. This will create a Tailwind and post configuration file inside your project. You can notice here you have your Tailwind and post configuration file. Just after that, inside the Tailwind configuration file, you have to add this code. So just copy it and paste it right here. Just like this. Save this file, open the index.css, copy this code, and open the index.css, this one. You have the index file inside the source folder right here. And inside this index, you have to paste at the top, you have to paste this code, just like this. And just after that, you have to execute the npm run dev command. But before that, let me use these Tailwind classes. So copy this h1 heading tag, back to my project, and here my app. I'm going to get rid of all this code right from here and paste the h1 heading tag, just like this. Save this file, open the terminal, clear the screen, npm run dev to start the development server. And now if I back to my project, here you can see I have my project ready. Now I'm going to back to the index.css, get rid of all this code because I'm not using it. Get rid of all this CSS, just like this. Save this file as well, and save this file. Now, once we successfully set up the Tailwind CSS, let's set up the font family. Inside this index.css, right up here, I'm going to import the font family. I'm using Poppins font family. So I'm going to search for Google Fonts, and right from here, I'm going to search for Poppins, this one. And instead of downloading and installing this font family inside the system, I'm just going to get this font. I'm going to click on this get embed code, and I'm going to copy the import statement. So just select the import and copy this code, just like this. And you have to paste this code right up here. Now you have your font inside your project. Just for that, I'm going to say here :root, and then I'm going to select the font family, which is going to be Poppins. Just for that, just specify the fallback value, which is sans serif. Line height is going to be 1.5 and font width is going to be 400. That's it. And here you can see you have your font family to this text. Now just out of that, let me close this file and close this configuration file. Inside the project, right inside the source directory, I'm going to create a new folder to store all my components. So let me specify name to this folder, component, and then inside this component, we are going to create two files. First is going to be container file. So I'm going to say here container.jsx, and second is going to be your teleprompter file. So I'm going to say here teleprompt.jsx. So now inside a container, we are going to create this teleprompter heading, the description, and the text where the user is going to specify their text and click on this button and redirect to the teleprompter. So let's create this first page inside a container file. So I'm just going to toggle the VS Code on the right side and my project on the left side. Inside this container file, I'm going to create a container. So to create a container, I'm simply going to say constant container is equal to, and then I'm going to specify here a function just like this. And inside this return statement, I'm going to wrap the JSX. So I'm simply going to first specify here h1 heading tag and specify here teleprompter just like this. Save this file, and this is not going to do anything because we did not exported this component. So simply going to say here export default container. Save this file back to your app.jsx right here, and at the top right up here you have to import your container from this container file just like this. And instead of this h1 heading tag, here I'm simply going to call this container just like this. Save this file, and you can see you have your container inside the project. Now just out of that, I'm going to back to the container right here, and I'm going to put this h1 heading tag inside a div. So get rid of this h1, here we pass a div and put that h1 as it is, and here I'm going to specify some classes. I'm going to first specify flex column, item center to center everything, and specify here max width, screen, LG. And then I'm going to specify here mauto to make everything center, and at the last we specify here h screen. And now we have a h screen to this window. You can notice. Just for that, let me specify Tailwind classes to this h1 tag as well. Here I'm going to specify class name, text 3XL, and padding by 10. This will increase the font size and add padding to this teleprompter. Just for that, here I'm going to add a paragraph, and inside a paragraph I'm going to put some demo text just like this. And to this paragraph, here I'm going to specify some classes, which is going to be max width is going to be screen SM, and text is going to be center. Now just out of that, just after this paragraph right down here, you're going to add here text area text box. So we specify here text area just like this. I'm not going to specify any name to this text area as well as the ID. To this text area right here, we need to specify some properties. So first we specify class names. We specify first width, which is going to be full. Then we specify h screen. Then it's going to be padding 4 and margin by 4. As well as we specify here border and border gray 300. Save the changes, and here you can notice you have your text area section. Just out of this border, we specify here rounded MD and add some shadow. So we specify here shadow MD, and just out of that, we also going to specify the placeholder. The placeholder is going to be enter your text here. Just out of this text area right down here, I'm going to add a button. I'm going to use this button to navigate the user to the main route. So I'm just going to add here an anchor tag like this and pass here an address of the next route. So inside this anchor tag right here, I'm going to pass a / and say here teleprompt just like this, and right inside it I'm going to say here generate. Save this file. So you can see we have this button here. Now here let me add some classes. So I'm going to first add padding x4, padding white 2, text is going to be white, and background color is going to be blue 500, rounded, empty. There we go. So we have the button right down here. Just out of that, what I want to convert this theme into dark theme. So instead of specifying the background color black to this application and specifying light color to every text, I'm just simply going to back to the index.css. I'm going to specify here color scheme, which is going to be light, dark. When I save the changes, you can see I'm going to have the light and dark color scheme to my application. Just out of that, if I want to change the color of this text and this black color, then I can do that as well. I'm going to say here color, and I'm simply going to pass here RGB color, just like this. This will change the color of this text. Just out of that, right down here. If I want, I can change the background color. I can change this black color as well. So I'm going to pass the background color like this. So this will change the background color of the application. Now, just out of that, let me back to the container. And here, as you know, this is my text area text box. I want to get the value from this text area text box and pass that to the next route, or you can say to the next page. So to get the value from this text area, we need to use the reference. So at the top, right up here, we need to say here import. What we are going to import is, we are going to import use ref from React. And right inside this function, right up here, we say constant text area reference. And the current reference is now. And then to this text area right here, we specify here reference and pass the text area reference variable, this one. To get the value from this reference, I'm going to simply create here a button. So suppose if I have here a button, and if I create here a callback function for this button. So suppose if I have here a handle submit callback function, and inside this, I'm first going to get the value from this text area. So to get the value here, constant input value is going to be the text area reference dot, we pass the current property and then pass value. And then I'm simply going to console dot log this input value, this one. And now when you click on this button, I'm going to display that value. So I'm going to call here on click event, just like this. Save this file. So now we have here a button. Let me open the inspect tool, just like this. And now if I type here daily tuition, click on this submit button, I'm going to have that text inside my console. So we are going to transfer this text right from this route. So if I specify here daily tuition, I'm going to transfer this text to the next route. When I click on this button, here you can see we have this daily tuition text to this next route. We need to use the React Router DOM module. For that, I'm going to open the terminal just like this. Let me just stop the development server. And here I'm going to install the React Router DOM module. So I'm going to say here npm I for install React Router DOM. I'm going to install this module inside the Teleprompter app. React Router DOM is a popular library for managing client-side routing in React application. It provides a simple and powerful way to navigate between routes and handle route parameters transactions. I'm going to install this package inside the application and start the development server again. So npm run dev. This will start the development server. Now, just after that, once we have this package, I'm going to back to the app.jsx, and right here, I'm going to import that router. So at the top, right up here, I'm going to say import. I'm going to say here browser router as router. Then I'm going to import routes and import route. And we are going to import this from React Router DOM module, which we recently installed. This one. Let me get rid of this container, and we're going to put this container inside a route. So we pass here router, this one, just like this. Inside this router, we have routes, this one. And inside these routes, we have different route. Let me self-close this, just like this. And then I'm going to specify path to this route. So we pass here path. This is going to the root route. And to this root route, we specify the element, which is going to be the container, this one. So I'm going to copy this and specify that like this. So to the home route, we have the container component. Just out of that, let me add here another route like this, self close this, and we specify path to it. And this time, instead of the root path, I'm going to specify teleprompter path, this one. As you know, when you click on this anchor tag, we are going to redirect the user to this teleprompter path. So I'm going to copy this and specify that right here, just like this. And then specify the element. And to this element, we are going to specify the teleprompter component. As you know, right here, we have this teleprompt component. Let me simply first create this. I'm going to say function teleprompter, just like this, and make sure you export it. So specify export default teleprompter, and inside this simply specify return statement. For now, let me add here h1 heading tag and specify here teleprompter heading. Save this file, back to the app. Right up here, we specify import teleprompter from this teleprompt file, and let me copy this and then specify that right here. And don't forget to self close it, just like this. Now let me save the changes. So now this is going to return this container to this home route. And if you open this teleprompt route, so if I pass here teleprompt like this, then this is going to open the teleprompt route. And if you back to the home, you're going to get your container as it is. Now, once we understand how to navigate between two components with React Router DOM, let's share the input text box data between two components. As you know, we have this text area and I want to share this data to the next route. There are different ways you can do it with property drilling, state management, context API, Redux, and so on. In this project, we are using context API, which is inbuilt in React application. You don't have to do anything else. So you don't need to install any library to use context API in React application. To use the context API, we are going to create a file right inside this component. Right here, I'm going to create a new file. Name this file api.jsx. You can name this file anything, that's upon you. And right inside this file, we first need to import create context and use state. We're going to call this create context function, which provide by the React to create a new context. So just down here, let me just create a context. So I'm going to say here constant value context is equal to create context. And right inside this context, we're going to create a new context. So inside an object, we pass here two values. First for the context and second for the context function. So I'm going to first here specify value, and the value is going to be now for now, and then we specify here set value. Now this is going to be a function. Now this function is used to specify value to this value variable. Now this function is going to specify value to this value variable. Now just for that, we're going to create here a context provider. So we're going to pass here value provider is equal to, and we pass here a function and we pass all the children's. So we pass here children, and this is going to return a function. Inside this function, we first need to wrap the value provider. So we first specify here a constant variable, and we're going to use here value and set value. We first call the use state to specify values to this context variable. So we call here use state, and currently it's now. Now just for that, here we pass a return statement, and inside this return, we're going to wrap the value provider. Oops, I think I misspelled here. It's value context. So now just down here, we specify value context just like this. And then here inside this, we specify dot and then specify provider. So this is going to the value context provider. And from this value context provider, we're going to return the children's. And to this value provider, we need to specify the create context value. So we pass here value, and inside an object, we pass values and set values. Save this file, and then don't forget to export the value context and value provider. Save this file, back to the app.jsx, and right here, we're going to import value provider from app component API, and then I'm going to create a wrapper around this router. So inside this fragment right here, I'm going to specify value provider. So here we pass value provider just like this, and don't forget to pass that right here just like this. So now once we have the value provider to these routes, now we can access all the values of this API inside all these components. Once we have this file, let me close it because we are not using it. As you know, inside this container, we are using this use reference to access the value of the text area, and we display that using handle submit function. So instead of doing this, now we are using context API. So I'm going to import here value context from API right from this file, and then right down here I'm going to say constant. In the object we pass value and set value, and I'm going to get these values from use context hook. So what you have to do is you have to import this hook from the React module. So at the top right up here, I'm going to say use context, and then we pass that use context right down here just like this, and inside this use context we pass the value context. So whenever you want to access the value of the context API, you need to use this use context hook. Just for that, once we have this, let me just import here a link component instead of using the anchor tag. So I'm going to call here link from React Router DOM, and instead of this anchor tag, here we pass a link component just like this. And as you know, you have to replace this href attribute as well. I'm going to access the value of this text area using onChange event. So just out of this placeholder, I'm going to say onChange, and inside this onChange, I'm going to pass a function. So we pass here parenthesis and call a function here just like this. And inside this function, I'm going to pass the function, this one, set value function of the use context. So we pass here set value, and to the set value, we are going to pass a value of the text area. So to get the value, we need to pass here an event parameter, and from the event, we can get the value of this text area. So we pass here e.target.value. So using this property, we can get the value of the text area and pass that to the set value, and this set value is going to pass that value to this value variable. Now once we have this, I'm not using this handle submit and the text area reference. So I'm going to get rid of this handle submit and this button. So let me first get rid of this button and get rid of this handle submit. And because we are not using the reference as well, I'm going to get rid of this reference as well from this file. And let me show you how you can create this teleprompter component inside this application. So now once we successfully created this teleprompter homepage, or you can say the root page, when we pass value to this text area and click on this click to redirect button, I want to pass this text value to this teleprompter route inside this text area section. And then I'm going to add this start and reset button, the speed of the text, and then the size of the text, as well as we're going to reset the teleprompter with this button. Let me show you how you can create this. So when you click on this button, this is going to redirect you to the teleprompter route. You can notice here. And then here, instead of this h1 heading tag, here I'm going to pass header. And inside this header, we're going to have some Tailwind classes. So we pass here fix, top is going to be 0, left is going to be 0, and width is going to be full. As well as I'm going to add some padding. So padding y5, flex row, and then I'm going to add a gap 10. At the end, I'm going to specify justify center just like this. And inside this header right here, I'm going to add these buttons, this one. So right here, I'm going to say button, and this is going to be start and pause button. So here, simply going to specify some class names. So specify here block, border 1, BG blue, 400. Then I'm going to specify padding x3, padding y1, text gray 50. Just like this. This is going to be the button. Save this file. Right now, you're not going to get anything here inside this button because we don't have any text inside this button. What we are going to do is, I'm going to install React icons and use that React icons inside this project. So I'm going to open a new tab right up here, React icons. I'm going to click on React icons website and install the React icons inside my project. You have to copy this command, open your terminal, just like this. Let me stop the terminal first. Install this command, npm install React icon. This is going to install the React icon inside the project. Let me start the development server again, just like this. So to use this icon, you need to first import it. So at the top, here you have to say import. In the object, I'm going to import two icons. First is hi play and second is hi pause. And we're going to get this from React icons. So we specify here from React icons and we get this from hi2 from the hero icon. And then I'm going to import the rest of the icon just like this from React icon bi from different libraries, but from the same package. So once we have all the icons inside this file, let me use it. So inside this button right here, I'm going to say if the variable is true, then print this play icon, or you can say show this play icon just like this. Otherwise, show the pause icon, this one. Save the changes and now you can see we have this play icon. Let me add some size to it. So size is going to be 25. Let me do the same for this hi icon as well. Now just out of that, if I make this value false, then I'm going to have the pause icon. If we have true here, we have the play icon. Now instead of this true and false, we're going to pass here a variable just after a few seconds. Right down here, just out of this button, here I'm going to add a div, and to this div we pass some Tailwind classes, flex, and gap is going to be 3. And inside this div we have a paragraph with some Tailwind classes. So we first specify flex, gap 3, text excel, items center, and then inside this paragraph here I'm going to add a icon. So I'm simply going to copy and paste icon here just like this. So we have here this speed icon. Just out of that, just out of this paragraph, here we have input of the type range, and then we pass some values here. The minimum value is 0.1. Then we have step value. The step value is 0.1. Then we have a max value. Max value is going to be 20. Just out of that, I'm going to copy this div, paste it down here, save the changes. But this time, instead of this icon, I'm going to change this icon just like this, and I'm going to change the value as well. So minimum value is going to be 1, step value is going to be 1, and max value is going to be 120. And make sure you pass ID to both this input range. So first I'm going to specify here ID. This is going to be my speed range, and the second is going to be font size, just like this. Now just out of that, just out of this division tag right down here, let's have a reset button. So I'm going to have a button here. Let me add some Tailwind classes. So we first specify here bg red 600, then padding x3, then I'm going to add text gray 50, and inside this button I'm going to add a simple icon. So this is going to be my reset button. And just out of that, so right down here, just out of this button, out of this header right down here, I'm going to add the black box. But before that, we need to wrap this header inside a division tag. So we pass here div just like this. We're simply going to add a black box. So we add here a div with some classes. So we pass here width is going to be full. Then we add height 72. Then add bg black. And we pass here fix class. Just like this. Then we add inset 0 margin auto and Z index is going to be 10. Margin auto will center this, and then we specify the Z index. After that, we add flex and specify item center. Now because I want to center the icon, I specify both these classes, and right here I'm going to pass the icon just like this. And at the end, right down here, I'm going to add a display text area box. So just down here, we specify a division tag again and specify some classes. So width is going to be full, height is going to be screen, then we add flex and justify center. And inside this div here, I'm going to have the text area text box. I'm not going to specify the name and ID, but I'm going to specify the class name, which is going to be text center. Width is going to be 10 by 12. BG is going to be transparent. Then I'm going to add here focus. Focus is going to be outline none. Then I'm going to add here border none and text white, as well as I'm going to add height full. Just after that, I'm going to make this read only. So I'm going to say here read only. The teleprompter page is now completely ready. Let me add actual functionality to this text area section. Now, before we move to the scrolling functionality of this teleprompter, let me specify use state to this input type range. So at the top, right up here, make sure you first import use state from React, and right inside this teleprompter, right here, you're simply going to say constant. In the array, you pass range value and set range value. This is going to be use state, and this value is going to be 0.3, the initial value of the speed. So we pass here a comment. So I'm going to pass here a comment and say speed initial value. Let me do the same. So I'm going to say here constant font size and specify set font size. This is going to be use state, and the initial size of the text is 36. I'm going to add here a comment and say initial font size value. Just after that, I'm going to scroll down, and as you know, here we have the range input text box. So I'm going to specify to this input text box range right up here value, and the value is going to be range value, this one. And as you know, the initial value is 0.3, so we will have this initial value to this range. Just after that, let me do the same for the font as well. So I'm going to specify value here, font size. Just after that, I want to display a font size inside this paragraph. After this icon, here I'm going to add a font size, this one. So this is the initial size of this font, and I'm going to do the same for this speed as well. So just after this icon here, I'm going to add the range value. So this is the initial speed of this teleprompter. Now, just after that, what I want, when I change this value, you can see I can't do this right now because I don't have the on change event to this slider. So what I'm going to do is to this speed range, let me add here a comment, speed range value, and I'm going to do the same here as well, but this time this is going to be the font size. Now to this speed value, to this speed range value, here I'm going to say on change, and I'm going to pass here a function with event, and to this event we specify set range value, this use state function, and to this set range value we pass e, means event dot target dot value. Save the changes, and now you can see you are able to change the value of this speed range. Let me do the same for this font size as well. Here we pass on change, here we pass an event, and then I'm going to pass set font size, here we pass e dot target dot value, just like this. Now we can change the value of this font size as well. That's easy, right? Now just for that, let me add a reference to this button and to this text area text box. So at the top, right up here, I'm going to add here constant text reference is equal to use ref. As you know, we don't have this use ref at the top. So when I press enter here, this will automatically add it inside this import statement. Now this is currently null. Then I'm going to add here a constant button reference is equal to use reference, and this is also going to be null. Just after that, I also want to access the value of the context, because when we have the value inside the context variable, we pass that right inside this text box. So to get the value of the context, as you know, we need to import the use context. So right up here, we call use context, just like this. And here we say constant in the object, we're just going to get the value is equal to use context. And inside this use context, we need to pass the context value. So at the top here, we need to import the value context from the API. So this is going to allow us to access the global variable value. So we pass that right here, just like this. So inside this variable, we have the value of the previous route input text box. Now just for that, let me pass this reference to the button. So right down here, as you know, we have this button here. So to this button here, I'm going to pass a reference, which is going to be button reference. And then to this text area here, I'm going to pass a reference, which is going to be text reference. And then after this, at the top, right up here, I'm going to add the important use state variables. Constant in the array, we pass is scrolling, set is scrolling is equal to use state, and the value is going to be false. The default value currently is false. Then I'm going to do the same. So constant is post, set is post is equal to use state, and the value is true. Now I'm using both this variable to start and stop the teleprompter scrolling, and this variable is pause is used to start and pause the scrolling. Just for that, right down here, I'm going to use effect hook. So at the top, let me first import it, use effect, just like this. Inside this use effect, I'm going to add the scrolling behavior. So I'm going to add here use effect, just like this. And this is going to return a function, as you know. And inside this function, here I'm going to say if is scrolling, and so I'm going to say here text reference dot current. If you have value here, then execute this if block. Inside this if block, I'm going to say let scroll top, and I'm going to return here 0. Then I'm going to use the set interval to start the scrolling. So I'm going to say here constant interval id is equal to set interval, and then to this interval here we pass 50, the interval timing. Then inside this interval here, I'm going to first start the scrolling where the user left off. So for that, we say if the scroll top, this variable, is less than equal to text reference dot current dot scroll height. If it is less than that, or is pause, then I'm going to execute this if block, and here I'm going to clear the interval. So I'm going to pass this variable here, and then I'm going to set the scrolling. So I'm going to say set is scrolling is going to be is pause, and then I'm going to return means exit from this set interval function. Just for that, If this is not true, then I'm going to say here constant scroll increment is equal to 1. I'm going to increment the scroll by 1, and then I'm going to say scroll top plus equal to scroll increment. Means I'm going to add the value of the scroll increment inside this scroll top, this variable. As you know, inside this variable we have 0. I'm going to add 1 every time when this interval iterate. So this statement is going to adjust the scrolling speed. The higher the value we have to this scrolling increment, the higher the speed. Just for that, write down here, I'm going to specify text reference dot current dot scroll top, and this value is going to be the scroll top variable. This one, we pass this value to this text. Just for that, keep in mind you have to pass dependency list. So the use effect is depends on is scrolling, text reference, and is pause. So we pass all that here, just like this. Save the changes, and now just for that we need to pass this value to the text area. So I'm going to copy this, and as you know, when I scroll down here, I have the text area here. Just out of this read only, I'm going to call here on change. Here we pass event as a function parameter, and then we pass set text. Let me create this variable at the top right here. I'm going to say constant text and set text, and this is going to be the use state variable. I'm going to pass this set text here just like this, and then I'm going to say here event dot target dot value. Just out of that, just out of this on change, here I'm going to pass a value, and inside this value we first specify the value variable, this one, the context value variable. So we are going to pass that value here, and if we don't have this value, then I'm going to print a message text not found. Save the changes. Now just out of that, what I want to center this text. So right after this reference, right down here, I'm going to specify style, and inside this style in the object we first specify the overflow property, which is going to be hidden. Then I'm going to specify here font size. The font size is going to be the variable of the input type range. So here I'm going to add tilde, then add here $, and then inside an object here we specify font size, and make sure you specify the unit as well. After that, pass here a comma, then specify padding top. Padding top is going to be 30%, and padding bottom 30%. There we go. And I save the changes. When I increase the font size value, you can see this will increase the text font size visibility. Now let me copy this, specify that here, generate. So we have the result. Now just out of that, what I want, when I click on this button, I want to start the scrolling. Just out of that, what I want to start this scrolling where we left off. I want to start the scrolling right from this black box. So for that, instead of this scroll top 0, here I'm going to specify text reference dot current dot scroll top, and instead of this 1, as you know, we have this speed range. I'm going to get this value and pass that right here. So I'm going to say here 1 plus parse float. I'm going to convert this into float, and then specify here range value. This one, this range value. I want to start the scrolling. So for that, we need to create a handler. So at the top, right up here, I'm going to say here on click event handler, and right here we say constant handle key down is equal to, and then we pass here event parameter, just like this. And inside this handle key down, we first say if the event dot key if it is equal to space, if you press the space bar, then execute this if block. And here we say event dot prevent default, just like this, prevent default. So we prevent the default execution. And here we say set is scrolling, which is going to be true, and set is pause is going to be is pause, the opposite value of the is pause. Just for that, here I'm going to say else if the event dot key, if it is equal to the arrow up, if it is equal to up arrow, means the up arrow button, if it is equal to that, then I'm going to execute the scroll up. Otherwise, I'm going to say here else if event dot key, if it is equal to arrow inside this key up and key down, we're going to pass a function. So when we press a key up and key down, we're going to allow the user to scroll this text. So just down here, I'm going to say constant scroll up, and here I'm going to say if text reference dot current. If it is true, then return text reference dot current dot scroll top minus equal to 10. Let me copy this, specify that here, and this is going to be scroll down. And instead of minus, now we pass here plus sign. So for the scroll up, we pass this function, and for the scroll down, we pass this function. We need to call this handle key down event, this event handler. So right down here, I'm gonna use effect hook. Inside this use effect, just like this, I'm gonna first call document add event listener, and then I'm gonna say here key down, and when I press a key down, I'm gonna call this handler, this event handler, this function. And just after that, just after this statement, I'm gonna return and remove the event handler. So I'm gonna return a function just like this, document dot remove event listener key down, and we pass this handler. And just for that, make sure you pass here dependencies. So we pass here is pause, and I'm going to pass this is pause right down here as well, because this icon is depends on this is pause variable. Save the changes, reload the browser. Now let me copy this, paste it here. Let me just test this application. So I'm going to click on it and press a space bar. When I press the space bar, you can see this is scrolling. When I press it again, this is not going to do anything because we did not clear this interval. So just out of this row right down here, we need to say here return statement, and we need to return a function, and this is going to clear the interval, and we specify the interval ID here, just like this. Now when I save the changes and reload the browser, copy this, paste it here, click on generate, and now when I press the spacebar and press it again, this will stop and start the teleprompter. You can notice. Now the last thing we need to change is color of this pause and start button. So scroll down, and here you can notice we have these class names. I'm going to just grab these class names. Here I'm going to pass an object and paste all my classes. But instead, just out of this blue color right here, I'm going to grab this, and here I'm going to say dollar in the object. I'm going to say is pause. If it is true, then print the blue color of the button. Otherwise, print the orange button, just like this. Save the changes, and now you can notice this button is going to change its color. I'm going to copy this, paste it here multiple times like this, and click on generate button. Now you can see the teleprompter start from this black box. Now if I press a space bar, this will start the teleprompter. You can see when I press it again, this will stop the teleprompter. If I want to increase the speed, I can increase this right from this button. You can see This will increase the speed. And if I want to change the font size, I can use this range element. If I want to scroll down, I can use this arrow key just like this and start the teleprompter again and reset it with this button. Now let me add a reset functionality back to the teleprompter. Right up here, we have this button. This is the pause button and we have this button here. Now to this button here, on click and call a function with event parameter just like this. And inside this function here, I'm going to say if e.type if it is equal to click. If it is equal to click, then execute this if block. And I'm going to say here text reference dot current dot scroll top. And this is going to be 0. Save this file. And now when I play this and click on this reset button, this will reset the teleprompter. So I hope you understand how to create this teleprompter from the scratch. If you want to download this project, the link is in the description. If you find anything useful, make sure to press the like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe for more latest videos. That is all for now. I will see you in the next one.